We never say never. We never lie down and take a beating.
He needs 1 second to throw up that triangle and you're screwed.
Paul Craig is going to work in round one. He's going to watch you go.
This man is utterly fearless.
He is so nasty on the ground. He's so good off of his back.
Just to feel what it's like to be the champion.
Scotland's Paul Craig is the best submission grappler in light heavyweight and middleweight because all he needs is one moment of error and boom, he snaps a limb, much like the legendary Gracies.
And it took me back to the Gracies. They'd be on the floor, doing the jiu-jitsu thing, and they'd be getting pounded and grounded. You thought it was over, and then all of a sudden, whop! It was over.
The question is, can he follow in the footsteps of Royce and company and conquer the UFC? Thus far, it has been a tale of ups and downs for the Scot, who promises to not back down until he gets to where he wants to be, the top of the food chain. So, before he steps in the cage again, let's recap his rise. Born in Airdrie, Scotland, Paul Craig initially wanted to be a footballer, but he wasn't good enough to play professionally. He picked up coaching for the love of the sport. However, the lack of direct involvement in the game soon distracted him from his goal before MMA came knocking at his door. Craig discovered his knack for martial arts once he started learning jiu-jitsu, and within a few years, he competed across Britain. The Scot blew his coaches out of the water by defeating notable opponents, and soon, opportunities started to flow like a river for Backgroud. In 2013, Craig started his professional MMA journey, winning his first 2 fights by submission, with his second victory producing intense back-and-forth scrambles. The fight took place against Antonio Braga in Ireland, where Braga drew first blood by swinging for the fences. Craig immediately went for a takedown, and once the action hit the mat, it was a scramble galore with both men turning the tables on one another. However, Craig ultimately put his submission skills off his back on display by submitting his opponent with a triangle choke. A couple of months later, Craig once again put his high-level BJJ skills on display against John Ferguson, who shot for a takedown off the bat. Though Craig resisted for the first few seconds, Ferguson was able to impose his will and put Craig on his back, which proved to be a big mistake as he was put to bed with a triangle choke in no time. Craig's next fight against Dan Kanecki was pretty much the same, as he spent most of the first round on his back before locking his foe up in a triangle and punching his face in to secure a TKO. At 4-0 as a professional, Craig secured his first shot at gold when he faced Andrzej Bachorz for the Fight Star Championship light heavyweight belt. Bachorz came out guns blazing, swinging his arms as wide and hard as he could before taking the fight to the mat, where he unleashed a brief ground and pound. Craig took some big shots, but quickly neutralized his opponent with a slick transition that saw him take the dominant position. Once the Scot took top position, he effortlessly locked in a Bravo choke and won the championship with as many style points as possible. A couple of wins later, Craig entered BAMMA, and in only his second promotional fight, he battled light heavyweight champion Marcin Lazarz. The first couple of minutes were a tactical striking battle with both men trading low kicks and occasional punches. In the third minute, a clinch battle saw the fight hitting the ground, where after a few scrambles, Craig pulled off his trademark triangle choke and finished the fight in style. With 8 consecutive wins under his belt, Paul Craig caught the attention of the UFC, where he made his debut against Henrique da Silva, who went for a takedown early, but only to end up on his back. From there, the Brazilian tried his best to pull off reversals, but he struggled to gain control and faced mounting damage. In the second round, Craig continued to dominate the ground duel and finished the fight with an armbar to improve to 9-0 as a professional. Unfortunately, his undefeated run came to an end in his second and third UFC fights, where he suffered back-to-back knockout losses at the hands of Tyson Pedro and Khalil Rountree. In his next fight, Craig did the unthinkable when he faced undefeated Dagestani monster Magomed Ankalaev. Throughout most of the fight, Ankalaev dominated Craig with his superior strength, speed, and wrestling. As the third round neared its end, Craig found himself pinned against the fence, absorbing strikes and trailing on the scorecards. However, with seconds remaining, Craig executed a surprising triangle choke from his back and forced Ankalaev to tap out with only 1 second left on the clock to pull off one of the greatest submission wins in MMA history. Unfortunately, Bear Jew couldn't capitalize on a spectacular victory like that, as he lost 2 out of his next 3 fights, but not one to back down. Craig bounced back in the biggest of ways possible when he won 5 fights out of 6 with 1 draw. In his 18th professional fight, Craig faced a tough test in the form of Gadzhimurad Antigulov, who made the mistake of taking down Craig early and immediately had the tables turned on him. Despite taking a few big shots, Craig waited patiently for an opening, and when it arrived, he secured a triangle choke to finish his foe in a little over 2 minutes. A few months later, Craig fought the legendary Mauricio Rua, the guy he had fought to a split draw just over a year ago. Craig started the fight aggressively with low and high kicks, while Shogun attempted power hooks. Not willing to stand and trade with a puncher like Rua, Craig then executed a double leg takedown and quickly transitioned to side control. Shogun tried to counter with a single leg, but Craig maintained control and landed knees from a front headlock position. Shogun eventually regained top position and attempted ground and pound before the round ended. In the second round, Shogun pressured Craig with powerful hooks, forcing him to defend. Craig relied on jabs and waited for an opportunity to shoot for a takedown, which he seized when Shogun threw a big shot. Despite Shogun's attempts to stay standing using the cage, Craig persisted and secured the takedown. Transitioning to Shogun's back, Craig applied hooks and unleashed a barrage of punches to win by TKO. Craig's winning run continued against the hard-hitting Jamahal Hill, who was a heavy favorite, but despite being the last 5 fights, while Hill suffered his first professional defeat. With Hill out of the equation, Craig faced a seriously tough test in the form of Nikita Krylov, who dominated the Scots for the majority of their fight by taking him down and unleashing vicious ground and pound. But for the umpteenth time, Craig seized an opportunity late in the round to lock in the triangle choke and forced Krylov to tap with 1 minute left in the first round. With 5 wins in 6 fights, Hall found himself swimming with the top dogs in the division, but a couple of losses to Volkan Ozdemir and Johnny Walker threw him down the pecking order once again, after which he decided to move down to middleweight, where he currently stands at 1 win and 1 loss. But he's hoping to right the wrongs and become the 185-pound champion of the world. The road to glory is seriously tough, but if there is one man who can win with his back against the canvas, it's Scotland's Paul Craig. Will Paul Craig reach the highest of highs in MMA? Share your thoughts, predictions, and opinions in the comment section below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell to stay in the loop on all things combat sports. Stay tuned, fight fans.